So hello everyone, today we are going to talk about is the muscles that are present in the human body. So did you know that the human body it has more than 600 muscles that help us to do everything in our day-to-day life. The muscle, remember, they perform useful functions and they are classified based on different factors. Now let us we classify the muscle based on the presence of striations. So what are striations? Striations, remember, they are the transverse lines. So these are the transverse lines that you can see in the some muscle. Based on the striation, we can divide them into striated muscle. So what is a striated muscle? Remember, striated muscle is a muscle with a large number of the transverse line or the striations. Example are the skeleton and the cardiac muscle. So these are you can see if here is the transverse striations. So these are the transverse striations that you can see. Now can anyone give me an example of where you find the striated muscles in the body? They are seen in the arms or the legs and in the heart or that involves the cardiac muscles. So they are seen in arms and the cardiac muscles. So what are the non-striated muscles? Non-striated muscles, they don't have any transverse cross striations. So they are also known as smooth muscle. And remember, they are found in the walls of visceral organs like the stomach or the intestine. The next, we classify the muscle based upon the control, whether we can control them or not. That is either voluntary muscles. Voluntary muscles, remember, they are muscles that we can control with our will. Skeleton muscles, remember, the skeleton muscles, they are voluntary muscle and they are controlled by somatic nerves. So can you think of an action that involves the voluntary muscles like lifting your hand or walking? Other are the involuntary muscles. What are involuntary muscles that cannot be controlled by our will? They are cardiac and smooth muscles. They are, remember, cardiac and smooth muscles, they are involuntary. So like the beating of the heart or the movement of the food through the digestive tract is an example of the involuntary muscles. The third is we classify the muscle based upon their location or situation in the body. The first are the skeleton muscle. What is skeleton muscle? The skeleton muscle, they are attached to bones and form the skeletal system. They are striated and they make up about 40 to 50% of the body mass. So can you point a part of body where you can feel your skeleton muscle? The example is bicep in your arms or the muscle in your legs. The second are the cardiac muscle. The cardiac muscles make up heart musculature. So these muscles, they are striated as they have striations, but they are involuntary. So why it is important that cardiac muscles, they are involuntary? Because the heart, remember, the heart needs to beat continuously without us thinking about it. The third, they are the smooth muscle. What is smooth muscle? Smooth muscle, remember, they are found in the visceral organs like the stomach. And it is, remember, it is non-striated. They won't have any striations and they are involuntary. So can you think of reason why a smooth muscle need to be involuntary? To keep our digestive system working automatically. Now this figure represents the difference between the skeleton, cardiac and the smooth muscles. Remember, the skeleton muscle, they are found in association with the bone, whereas cardiac muscle, they are found in heart, smooth muscle found in the wall of the visceral organs. The skeleton muscles, they are cylindrical and they are unbranched, whereas the cardiac muscles, remember the cardiac muscle, they show branching, whereas the smooth muscle, they are spindle shaped. They are shape of a spindle and they are unbranched. The skeleton muscle, remember, they have a diameter of 1 to 4 centimeter, that is their length. The cardiac muscle, they have a length of 80 to 100 micrometer, smooth muscle 50 to 200 micrometer. The skeleton muscle, remember the skeleton muscle, they have more than one nuclei per cell. The cardiac muscle, they have one nucleus per cell, and a smooth muscle, they have one nuclei per cell. The cross striations, they are present in the skeletal muscle. Cardiac muscle, the cross striations, they are present, but in the smooth muscle, the cross striations, they are absent. So these are the striation lines that you can see. The myofibrils, they are present in the skeleton muscle. And in smooth muscle, they are absent. So remember all these. The sarcomere, it's absent in the smooth muscle. The troponin is absent in the smooth muscle. So these are the various differences between these various types of muscles. Now remember that muscle mass, it is composed of large number of individual muscle cells that are known as myocytes. So these muscle cells, they are commonly known as muscle fibers because they are long and slender in appearance. So why are muscle cells called muscle fibers? Because they are long and slender in appearance. The skeleton muscle fibers, they are multinucleated, that means they have many nuclei, and the nucleus, they are arranged parallel to each other. Remember, the muscle mass, it is separated from the neighboring tissue by a thick fibrous tissue that is known as fascia. So beneath the fascia, the muscle, it is covered by a connective tissue that is known as epimysium. So can anyone tell me what separates the muscle mass from the neighboring tissue? It's the thick fibrous layer that is known as fascia. And inside the muscle fibers, they are grouped into bundles that are known as fasciculi. Each fasciculi, it is covered by a connective tissue sheath that is known as perimysium. And each individual muscle fiber, it is covered by another connective tissue that is known as endomysium. So what is the connective tissue sheath that cover each muscle fiber? It's the endomysium. Now remember, each muscle fiber, it is cylindrical in shape. Muscle fibers, they are attached to tough cord of connective tissue that is known as the tendon. The tendon is attached to then bone. So in some muscles, you will see the tendon, it is thin, flat and stretched, and it would be stiff and it would be tough, and this type of tendon, we call it as aponeurosis. So can anyone identify the connective tissue layer that covers the entire muscle? The entire muscle, the answer is epimysium. So each muscle fiber, it is enclosed by a cell membrane called the plasma membrane that lies beneath the endomysium. So this membrane is known as sarcolemma. And the cytoplasm of the muscle fiber is the sarcoplasm. Now this sarcoplasm, it contains various structures that contains nucleus, myofibrils, Golgi apparatus, ribosomes, sarcoplasmic reticulum and glycogen droplets. Now each muscle fiber has one or more nuclei. In long muscles, many nuclei are present. These nuclei, they are oval shaped or elongated. Remember, unlike most of other cells where nucleus is centrally located, the muscle fibers, the nucleus that is present is the peripheral. So where are the nuclei located in the muscle fibers? Remember, they are located just beneath the sarcolemma. Now let us discuss about the myofibrils. Myofibrils, they are the fine parallel filament that are present in the sarcoplasm of the muscle cells. So they run across the entire length of the muscle fiber, and their diameter, it ranges from 0.2 to 2 micrometer. So what are myofibrils? Remember, they are fine parallel filament that are present in sarcoplasm of the cell. Now let us discuss the structure of the myofibrils. So these are the myofibrils. So these myofibrils, they contain alternating light and dark band that are formed by muscle protein. That is, they can be light bands. The light bands are the I band or the isotropic bands, because it is isotropic to the polarized light. When the polarized light, it passes through this area, the light rays, they are reflected at the same angle. Now why it is called light band or I band? Light rays, since the light rays, they are reflected at the same angle, that is why it is known as the I band. Other is the dark band, that is known as the dark band is the A band, and it is anisotropic. That means that when the light is passed through this area, the light rays, they will be refracted in the different direction. So that is why it is known as A band. A means anisotropic. So remember, the I band and A band of the adjacent myofibrils, they are placed side by side, giving appearance of cross striations in muscle fibers. Remember, the I band, it is divided into two portions by a narrow dark line that is known as Z line. So what divides the I band into two lines? So the I band is divided into two portions by a narrow dark line that is known as, this dark line is the Z line. And the portion of myofibrils between the two Z lines, it is known as sarcomere. that is the structural and functional unit of the skeletal muscle, and it is also a basic contractile unit of the muscle. So remember, what is the structural and functional unit of the skeletal muscle? The answer is sarcomere. So a sarcomere extends between the two Z lines of myofibrils and contain one half of the I band, one dark A band, and one half of the I band. So remember, in the middle of A band there is H zone, which contains the middle part of the myosin filament, and it is called the M line, that is formed by a myosin binding protein. Now the electron microscopy reveals that the sarcomere, they consist of many thread-like structures that are known as myofilaments. So these myofilaments, they can be of two types. They can be actin filament or they can be myosin filament. The actin filament, they are the thin filament with a diameter 20 Armstrong and 1 micrometer. They extend from the either side of the Z line, run across the I band and enter into the A band up to the H zone. Whereas the myosin filament, they are the thick filament with a diameter 115 Armstrong and length is 1.5 micrometer. These are situated in the A band. So what are the two types of myofilament in sarcomere? They are the actin filament and the myosin filament. Now remember, during the muscle contraction, the myosin heads, they pull the actin filament toward the center of the H band using a sliding mechanism. So during contraction, the actin filament glide between the myosin filament toward the center of the H zone. The Z lines also approach the end of myosin filament and shortening the H zone and the I zone. And during relaxation, the actin filament and Z line, they return to their original position. So what happens to Z line and H line during muscle contraction? The Z line approaches the end of the myosin filament and the H zone, it will shorten. Now the muscle contraction is facilitated by specific proteins that make the myofibrils. The main contractile proteins, they are the myosin and actin along with the tropomyosin and troponin. So these all play a role in muscle contraction. Myosin filament is formed by myosin molecule. So it has a tail portion and a head portion. The head portion, it is formed by heavy chain and light chain. So remember, the myosin has one site for the actin filament and one site for the ATP molecule. Whereas the actin filament, they are thin with each molecule that is known as F-actin, and each F-actin molecule, it has an active site for myosin head attachment. So what is the purpose of active site on the F-actin? It is point where the myosin head will attach during the muscle contraction.